just as you're giving out those sheets, just tell you what that is. I put it on the WhatsApp group as well. This is from a sefer, the Stipler's son-in-law, Zechron Livracha, Shlomke Berman. The Chazon Ish actually suggested the shidduch. It was close to the Chazon Ish, so he was an Eidim by the Stipler, beautiful sefer Asher L'Shloimei, and we'll get to him later. So let me sketch out. We're continuing from the ktzos that we did yesterday. There is one more detail that I need to learn, but I think it can wait a bit. So let's go back to the ktzos. Let's quickly review what we saw yesterday and move on, finish the ktzos, and then get stuck into the Stipler. So the ktzos quoted a Rosh and then a Ritva. The Rosh who said that what? How does Matana al-Manos Lahachzir work? Matana al-Manos Lahachzir means that you gift somebody something and they need to, and that effectively is absolute. It's absolute. Effectively, it's forever. It's an absolute act of giving. But the Tanai is, there is a Tanai, which is a condition that you makna it back. You gift it back. Some discussion in the post-game about to what extent it means literally an act of being makna or just giving it back. But either way, you've got to be makna it back. However, says the Rosh, if you were merely to say it is yours up until such time as you, in the case of Esrog, up until such time as you've been yotzer with the Arba Minim, and then it would automatically revert back to me, that would be Sha'ul. That would be no good. It wouldn't work. And the Rosh brings a beautiful raya from the Gemara that says, don't be makneh a Dalad Minim on Yom Tov to a cotton. Because right, go on, because
he doesn't have the das to give it.
He can be koina, but he can't be makneh. It's like the Rosh, but if we could do matana al-manos lahachzir in such a way that I give it to you until such time as you are yotza, and then it automatically reverts, then we have an eitzah. We could do that with a cotton. The Gemara is not prepared to contemplate that. Elamai, that doesn't work. Indeed, you have to be makneh back. The Ritva says the same thing. Says the Ktzos, if it wasn't for the words of the great Rosh and Ritva, I would say that a matana al-manos lahachzir means kamashmoi, as the words imply. There's no Tanai. But ain't no Tanai hakna. Not that there's a condition of hakna, but I give to you the esrog b'matana gemura up until such time as you're yotzer, and it is an absolute matana up until such time. Now, how's he going to answer the proof of the Rosh? We'll leave that for a moment. Okay, so he said he would like to suggest that matana al-manos lahachzir means not that there's a t'nai of hakna, but I give it to you. It is absolutely yours in a time limited sort of way. Okay, then he brings various proofs, which unfortunately we're just not going to be able to go through. Esrog of Shutvin and Hektosh, lots of other different things. And then he said, eventually he writes, and this is where I want to pick up. We nearly finished yesterday, so we're on page Reish Dalad, so in the middle of Ktzos Reish Mem Aleph, Reish Mem Aleph Dalad, the top of the page, just to make it easy for you, is the page Reish Dalad. It is the right-hand column and the last paragraph. It starts with the words Elo Shaloi. Okay, follow with me.
Yep.
And let's finish this off and move on. Elo Shaloi Matzosili Rav Bozeh. I didn't find a source. I didn't find a Tana de Messiahli. Eventually I found a Rav Kadmon who does agree with me. And this is, it's brought in the Chuvas Arosh in the name of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. What does Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek say? As follows. When the Gemara says you can't be yotzer your chiyuv of arba minim on sukkos with somebody else's lulav, if you can't be you're going to underline some words. It's these words: knias haguf l'sha'ah. Giving somebody the permission, the the allowedness to use the item, just hanas shimush, is not enough. You need to have a kinyan aguf, because the Torah says, what's the magic word?
Lachem.
Correct. Lochem. It has to be yours. You have to have a kinyan haguf. And now I don't mind, says Rabbi Victor Kohen Tzedek, if that kinyan haguf that you have is of limited time duration. That's not a problem. You can have a kinyan, these are the key words here, kinyan haguf l'sha'ah.
Quality instead of duration.
Let's say, it's yours in that time. It is absolutely yours. Kinyan haguf l'sha'ah. Okay. Then he asks a question, but the Gemara in Bava Basra says, seems to indicate that matana almanos lahachzir is considered kinyan peiros and not kinyan aguf, which would mean that it is you don't own the thing itself. You merely have a right to enjoy its fruits, so to speak, which would seem to indicate that it's only hanas shimush, that you're allowed to enjoy using the item, but it's not your item. That's a challenge to his thesis. Yeshloima, top of the left-hand column now. Yeshloima dalhachi ka'oma. Dalhachi ka'oli kinyan peiros, when it uses the term kinyan peiros, it means it only that she'ena yochel la'oichloi. It means it only in the sense that you're not allowed to devour it. You can't eat it. You can't get rid of it. It is only called, have you got the place?
Yes.
You look a bit lost.
We did, but we only had one paper, no?
It's on that paper.
Turn it over.
Sorry. Okay. It has both sides.
Are you with me now? We're on the top of the left.
Usually you have one.
We're on the top of the left-hand column.
Got it.
Got it? Yeshleima. The only reason the Gemara Bava Basra calls it kinyan peiros is insofar as you can't eat it, you can't sell it, you can't get rid of it. But within the time that you have, within the limited time duration that you have permission to use it, you don't just have permission to use it. Within that time, it is absolutely yours. Aval mihu kinyan haguf l'sha'a mikri, and that meets the required standard of lachem. Ubahochi sagi de velakastem lachem mishalachem mishas lekicha koped rachmana shehu mishaloi v'ho'ika. Okay, next paragraph. Ulefi zeh tzarich leima. Now, hold on a second. We now have a problem with the Gemara about the kid, right? The Rosh's proof from the Gemara about the kid. So in other words, he's saying there is such a thing as a time. I can give something to you. Totally. Here, take this item. I give this to you as a matana. It is absolutely yours for the next 10 minutes. For the next 10 minutes, it is 100% yours. Mm-hmm. Now, can you sell it? Can you destroy it? Let's see. Ulefize, tzarich lema. Ha damru lo liknin shli yinuka, hainu b'makne stam b'li shum shiur. Says Rabbi Victor Kohen Tzedek the following. When the Gemara says don't give an esrog to a kid on Yom Tov because he can be koine but he can't be makne, hainu b'makne stam. The Gemara is talking about a situation where you just give it to him. You don't say matana almanos lahachzir. You just give it to him. Now that word there, the word at the end of the line, very important word, right? Don't confuse it with the word, a measurement or a shiur of Torah, which is, it is a different word altogether. Shin yud vav reish. It means, in English, the correct word is a retention, to hold back. L'shayer. Shiurei ma'achal are crumbs, the bits which are left over. If you ever go to a Hasidic tish, what do you get? Shirayim from the Rebbe. Yeah, you get shirayim. You get the bits that are left over. Shiur. Yeah, the bits are left over. So in ownership, and this, by the way, has a fascinating, as a sidebar, the Jewish view on IP is intellectual property, copyright. So one of the approaches, it's a fascinating approach by Reb Zalman Nechemia Goldberg, was to use shiur. You know, when you buy a CD and it says you can't, no copyright, you're not allowed to copyright. I bought it, it's mine. So intellectual property rights is a big challenge for Jewish law because it's an intangible. And we have notions of kinyonim, acts of acquisition, right? So do we recognize the concept of an intellectual property? So for example, taking musical notes and forming them in a certain order is worth a lot of money. And there's many, many important court cases where people have been accused of taking a song and plagiarizing it. And is it the same? Is it not the same? And there's a lot of chokhmah in the mathematical structure of music and how you can identify scales and then whatever. So IP, so one of the approaches is a shiur in the kinyan, i.e. that I sell you this CD, but I keep back some tiny aspect of ownership to myself. And in that, I retain the right, and somehow through that becomes the channel that prevents you from copying it, etc. That might be the one legal channel. I'm just mentioning it sort of as a sidebar, by the way. Anyway, so says the Ktzos, when the Gemara says this problem that we have with a Tinuk, of giving him a Dalad Minim, that's a Hani B'Maknes Stambali Shum Shiur. When I don't retain anything, I give it to him absolutely. But I hope and assume, I don't know what other word you want to use, that he will give it back to me afterwards once he's used. Because it's kind of self-understood that, nobody has a use for a citron. The only use that it has, and we're hoping the cotton understands, is he's crying and Shulia doesn't have something, and I say, you know what, Bubala, here, you can use mine. You can shake with mine, and I'll be maknit to you, whatever. So it's kind of self-understood, yes?
That doesn't seem to be the case with the ring, though.
Well,
okay.
Yes, and how do you know? One second.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, your mind races. I'm slow. I'm a slow and steady horse. My mind's not as fast as yours. Where the Gemara says that it doesn't work, the Gemara is talking about when you just give it to him stam, and he hopes that the guy will, that the kid will give it back to him. In that case, he can't, now he's stuck. Because now he's stuck, he gave it to him, it's his. He's stuck, the cotton has it, because the cotton can be kona, and the cotton now is stuck, he can't give it back. There's no mechanism to get it back. Oh, but what would be? You say to the cotton, I'm giving this entirely to you for the next 5 minutes until you have done your mitzvah. Then gamba cotton mahani. Why? The Ktzos understands. This is the Ktzos. This is not Rabbi Victor Kohen Tzedek. Okay? This is the Ktzos taking those words. He's building his whole edifice here on the basis of these words that it's Kinyan Haguf L'Sha'ah. And those words, we're going to see there will be serious challenges to that understanding of Rabbi Victor Kohen Tzedek. So he's saying, taking Rabbi Victor Kohen Tzedek, he's extrapolating from him that we have a notion of Kinyan Haguf L'Sha'ah. We have Kinyan Haguf L'Sha'ah. Therefore, he says, what you could do is, you could do Matana Manos Lahachzir, which would mean that there's a Kinyan Haguf L'Sha'ah, and then at expiry, it automatically reverts. And I don't need the cotton. Why didn't the Gemara say that? The Rosh Hashanah, because the Gemara is talking stam. The Gemara is talking about a different case. The Gemara is talking stam. And he brings right to the last words. He's jumped to the last words in the Ktosia. He says, Beferish Rashi nira de maknelo bistam. Rashi, he has an indication that Rashi understands it that way as well, that it's stam. In a case of stam, yes, you're stuck. Stam means, I give it to you, but I give it to you entirely, in perpetuity. That's the correct term in English. In perpetuity, I give it to you forever. And then I hope that you'll give it back to me. But because I gave it to you forever, I'm stuck. It's yours now. And you've got no means of getting it back.
So the first means the case for the Sukkos pros.
Sukkos?
The Sukkos pros. And the other one is like for the
That's
ones
right.
who do them. Yeah.
That's right. So therefore says the Ktzos. Correct. If I say to this fellow, I say to the kid, I'm giving it to you until you have been Yotza. then that's fine. Now, 1 minute. Then gam b'kotzon mahani. Given the matana almanos lahachzir mimelech ades matana. So what's the point of the Tanai then? Now, the Ktzos seems to, in the next few words, he seems to be cognizant of a bit of a problem here. And remember this, because we're going to pick this up, not today, we won't have time, we're going to pick this up later. Is there not a question here? If there is a concept of a kinyan l'shah, as the Ktzos wishes to understand Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, there's a notion of a kinyan l'shah, then why do you need the mishpatei hatanoim, a Tanai? Tanai is a big thing in halacha. It has its own tanoim. Conditions has its own conditions. So Tanai kofel. We're going to see, by the way, we haven't learned it yet in the bash in the cham. We're going to see whether in this case whether you need Tanai kofel or not. For example, almanos. The word almanos has anybody remembers from Ksubas kalaim almanos kaima me'achshav domi. There's a Tanai is Tanai milsa acharita. Is it an external legal addendum and a requirement, or does it feed into the thing itself? So then, why do I need Tanai? Just say, I'm giving this to you, absolutely, until such time as you have been Yotza. What's the almanos bit? Let's see. You hear the question? Elo, Tanai almanos lahazir. He's not really asking this. I'm being a bit disingenuous. He isn't asking this, but he is now going to imagine, reinterpret what's going on when somebody says matana almanos lahachzir. He says as follows: Elo dahatnai almanos lahachzir hainu sheyishayer. I am retaining a small amount of control and balus and ownership over this item.
So that's the IP.
Possibly. That's what Rabbi Zalman Chemigov wants to say. The Tanai is that I am Messiah. I'm giving it to you totally. It needs to be lochem. So it's a kinyan aguf l'sha'ah, but it's a kinyan aguf. The kinyan aguf is one that's forever. So what's going on? Hainu sheyishar de'im loy kain ein loy ela mashashir u'machra ochla ein loy. Because if I don't do that, then the only thing I'm going to be left with then is what have I kept to myself? If I don't keep something back to myself, this item has gone forever. Umathono sheyishoyer achasho. If we don't say this, that it's a shiur, ein lo yala mashashir u'mochra yachla ein lo. Umathono sheyishoyer achasho. Umasne sheyishoyer achasho la'atzmai. He makes a condition that after an hour, it comes back to me. Ve'im kain lefi zenicha. Therefore, hekdeshei hekdeshu muchzer. Halacha is, and again, I don't want to be drawn into all the details, but just be aware that if with matana almanos lahachzir, the person who gets the matana is makdish it. He can be makdish it, and then it has to go back to the owner. And how we deal with it's another story, because it's muchzar kim du chayzer elav beli hakna. You don't need a new act of hakna. The Ktzos understands in Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. It is a kinyan haguf l'sha'ah. It's yours absolutely for that time. But how come it's only for that time? Because I hold something back. I hold back bylaws that, which then makes it automatically revert back to me in 10 minutes' time. And we need to work this through. Let's just finish this off. This basically is the Ktzos. This is where we're left. This is what we're left with. Let me just summarize, and hopefully we'll get started on the questions on the Ktzos, because it ain't simple. To revise, the Ritva and the Rosh understand that matana almanos lahachzir requires it's not a kinyan aguf l'shah. It requires an external act of the person who receives the gift being makna it back. Nothing else is good. The Ktzos understands there is a concept of a kinyan haguf l'sha'ah and wants to bring a proof from the language used by Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek in the Tshuvas HaRosh. And And therefore, in Ochanama, he says, with a matana al manos lahazir, for a cotton, it would work. When the Gemara says it doesn't work, it's talking bistam. I just gave it to the cotton in perpetuity, and I hoped and assumed the cotton would understand, maybe I'm an Amoretz, and I know it needs to be lochem, that's all I know, let's say. So I give it to the cotton stam, and I'm hoping he'll give it back to me, and he starts giving it back to me, and the Tam Tochem taps me on the shoulder and says, well, what's going on over here? He can't give it back to you. But that's only when he's required to give it back to me. In other words, I didn't give it to him in the first instance as a matana al manos lahazir. I gave it to him stam. But had I given it to him by matana al manos lahazir, then there would be no. In Ochanama, the Rosh is right. He would say there would be no problem. It would be a kinyan aguf. It would be absolutely lochem. It's absolutely lochem. The Gemara calls it kinyan peiras. That only means that you're not able to totally get rid of it. You can't eat the esrog. But it's still considered for us, insofar as lochem is concerned, it's a kinyan aguf. And when the time thing expires, whatever that is, then it automatically reverts back to the original owner. That is the view of the Ktzos on Matana Manos Lahazir. Yes.
Is that the reason why etrog is as big as it is and it's not edible? We could say that like.
Well, you could sell it. You could destroy it.
No,
I'm
saying it's not a fruit that you can, while you're shuckling, unpack and eat because it's not enjoyable. It's not. You can't. It's
well, you
very
could.
bitter.
You could. Or you could. Or you could sell it.
No, okay, but
it's actually just.
No, you could sell it. Maybe you could sell it.
I understand. I'm saying that if it would be a payload in
it would make no difference. It.
I know. I'm saying it's very practical that it's like not edible for this scenario.
Okay.
Because
it wouldn't make a difference in halacha even if it was. Let's say we were to have an orange. Everything would stay the same. Let's say the Torah tells us to shake an orange.
Okay.
Would be no difference at all.
Not shaking.
Because you don't have the right. Because there is and this is something we're going to have to explore. The Ktzos understands you have a kinyan haguf l'shar.
Yeah.
Now, why is it? So then he has a question. The Gemara in Bava Basra calls it a kinyan peiros,
right. Meaning
that, which would seem to suggest you only have the right to use it. Having the right to use it is not good enough for a dalad minim. It needs to be lochem. It needs to have a kinyan aguf.
Yeah.
He says it is a kinyan aguf. Why does it call it kinyan peiros? Because it's only kinyan peiros insofar as you're not allowed to sell it. You're not allowed to eat it. But it's a kinyan aguf, and that is what we need to unpack. Okay, is that clear? Now comes the stipler.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Some.
No, that's the stipler.
Okay.
Hilchos Yaakov. Okay. I gave it to you yesterday. Okay. Hilchos Yaakov. And he's not the only one. There are a number of Achronim who ask. But remember the other case we had. I want to remind you. Yesterday we saw in Siman Chof Ches, Seif Chof, the following scenario. And that is...
With the daughter?
So I mentioned, you're right, I mentioned the Shaila brought by Rabbi Eliyahu Schlesinger, but it's a sif in Mechaba that we saw yesterday, Siman Chof Ches, the previous Siman Sif Chof. What's the case? The case is, somebody gives the chosen a ring, Matan al Manos Lahazir, he takes that ring and is Mekadesher, the halacha is Mekudeshes. And we need to see how that fits with the halacha of being Mekadesh, a woman with, and when you say to her that it's Almanos, Matan Almanos Lahazir, then it doesn't work. So, Mimanushach, you can only give over you can't give over more than you've got. So, is that not the same? So, how come it works? And does he tell her? Doesn't he tell her? So, put that in your back pocket, put that in the back of your mind, and bearing that in mind, we now start the challenge of the stipler on the Ktzos. You ready? Okay, let's good. Ma'od nifleisi. Yes. Hilchos Yaakov. Yeah, Hilchos Yaakov. You can leave out the first paragraph here because he's just pretty much repeating the Ktzos. Fine. Ma'od nifleisi. Are you with me?
No.
Well, Hilchos Yaakov.
Yeah.
Good. Jolly good. U'ma'id nifleisi. Shelachur hu dava she'i efshel ha'omrei kein klal. Says the stipler. The analysis, the explanation of the Ktzos in the opinion of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek is untenable. cannot be supported at all. Very strong words. Because if you read that tshuva of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek a bit further, you will find the following. Quote, ובעניין מתנה על מנוס להחזיר, קיבלתי ממוירי משפירה, Shpaya, maybe, probably, very possibly, yeah. I was makabel from my rebbes there. Dedavka Kiddushin demoto liyad ha'isha al manos lahazir loy have kiddushin dedomi lechalipin. Only when you go up to a woman and say Ariat Mekudeshesli with a tabas with a matal manos lahazir, only then it doesn't work. Why? Because domi lechalipin. Avol, but what I just spoke to you about a minute ago. Avram im hamakadesh hishil. If the Makadesh borrowed, and here the Stipler says in brackets, he thinks it's a Torah sofa, or it doesn't mean borrowed. It means he got hold of. If he gets hold of a ring, tabas, leave out the brackets. Tabas hamanos lahachzir v'holach v'kiddush bo'isha stam. That's the mechaber in Chavcheh Sivchov. Yes. Pirush. What does that mean? Stam. Pirush v'lo yamash et iskadesh banos shimush zman ma. You don't say to her, I'm giving this to you for the next hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, because then we'd have another shaila, by the way, and that is one that we will also look at. What would be if you go up to a woman and you say, if we can place a monetary value on the use of a diamond ring for a day or 2 days or 3 days, and that value is more than a shava pruta, and she knows that, and she's maybe, whatever. But, so he's discounting that. You with me? So he just goes up to her stam, and says he receives a ring as a matana manas lahazir. He then goes up to her stam and says Hariyat Mekudeshesli b'tavazu. Says Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, the same Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. What does he say? Mekudeshes. Mekudeshes. It works. D'chol ha'omer al manos ka'omer me'achshov dami. Because when you say al manos, and this is very important, you should know this anyway. It's a gemara, it's a halacha. It's the following statement, begrif, if that's the right term. Kol ha'omer al manos, ka'omer me'achshav dami. Whenever you say al manos, it's effective immediately. Okay? So, v'hava matana. Because the fellow who gave him matana al manos lahachzir, it's his. Because he said al manos. So the chosen now owns this ring. He has to give it back at some point. But currently he owns this ring. Okay? V'hava matana. V'chi yohiv ihu. And when he gave it to her, this is, I think this is still actually a direct quote, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on. See, we haven't got to an ad kanashon yet. I just want to make sure that we are. He doesn't actually do it, say. Give me a second. No, this is no longer the quote. This is the explanation. Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, the same Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, right? We spoke about kinyan aguf l'sha'ah. Also says that if you go up to a woman, and presumably he also agrees that if you're mekadosh a woman with a tabas matana manos lahazir, it doesn't work. He says if the chosen gets a ring as a matana manos lahazir and then goes on as mekadosh, it does work. Says, so the Stipler is explaining. He says, Ein sham b'tshuva. Well, it actually might still be his lashon. I'm going to have to actually print out the Tshuva Sarash. Either way, the pshat is the chalaim al manos k'omer me'achshav dami v'hava matana v'chi yohiv ihu. When he gives it to her, lam al manos lahachzir yohiv. So he gives it to her, not al manos lahachzir lo dami lechalipin. It's nothing like chalipin. Afal gap. Sorry, guys. This is the lashon of. This is the actual lashon of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. I got confused because of the Ein Sham in the bracket. This is the language of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. This is a direct quote. So as long as you give it to her without mentioning al manos lahachzir, it's a proper matana. It's not like chalipin. He says afal gav tzricha lahachzir k'dei lekayim t'noi. But now we have a problem. The chosen has a problem now, not the kala. The chosen has a problem because you see, if he doesn't give the ring back to the guy, that means he never had it. The Tanai will be Mavatal Matana, which means he never gave her anything. So therefore, we have to, as long as we can get her to give it back to him, however we possibly achieve that. Then, and he gives it back, then retrospectively, he had something for that hour, 2 hours. She, in that time, absolutely received a ring forever. But we prevail on her. Maybe he goes to her later. I don't know how he does it. And he gives you a few options. He says, להחזיר, she needs to give it back so that he can be mekayim his t'nai. He goes up to her and he buys it off her. The husband, the Baal, goes, can I buy that ring off you? That's a really nice ring. He said, yeah, duh, I know, you just gave it to me under the chuppah. But Tarazu says, yeah, I know, but I really like it. So here's I don't know, here's €1 and I'd like to buy it off you again.
Poor women with
whatever. And she says, okay, I'll sell it to you, no problem. So she sells it back to him. Everybody's happy. So, says the Stipler, the same Rebbe the Kohen Tzedek that the Ktzos is using to say that there is a Kinyan L'Shah, and then it automatically reverts. Yeah? Kinyan Aguf. The only reason the Gemara Bava Basra calls it Kinyan Peiros is to tell me that that you can't eat it. But otherwise it's Mamash Kinyan Aguf, it's Lochem, it reverts automatically. If you do this with a cotton, it works. The same Rebbe the Kohen Tzedek says that if the Choshen is Makabel something but as a matana lahachzir, and then is Makadosh Stam, it's not like Chilipin, it absolutely works. But of course, for the Kiymat Tanai, the husband's going to have to persuade her or buy it back from her or something and then give it back, and then that would work. And the Stipler tomorrow is going to show us how these two, that this position of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, this thing is incompatible with the Ktsos's understanding of him. Here's Morgan.